Oh hey, what are you doing here? Welcome back. Today I'll be designing a brand identity from scratch and showing you the whole process. Grab your emotional support beverages, get comfortable, get cozy, and let's commence, shall we? I thought it would be cool to create a cafe with a rooftop garden. Rooftop gardens are super cool. They're actually really environmentally friendly. They help cool down urban areas. They help filter out the air. They help increase biodiversity. And they're just aesthetically really nice. So I thought, why not combine it with a cafe? I'm sure one of these exists somewhere, but I thought it would be cool to make a design for one. This is just for funsies. It takes a lot of hours to plan something like this and to build it all out. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that I don't necessarily show, but I really love making these. They're so fun for me, so I hope that you enjoy it and get something out of this, or that it inspires you in some way. Mark helped me brainstorm a name for it, and we came up with Grass Roof Cafe, like a play on grassroots, which kind of ties into the community vibe and sustainability and all of that. For this imaginary brand, I did a little bit of preparation ahead of time just to come up with the brand voice, brand tone, all of that kind of stuff, just so we can get the groundwork. Usually a client would give that to you, but I'm just doing all of this from scratch, so I am coming up with all of that. As far as the vibes go, I really want it to be friendly, community oriented, earthy, welcoming. I also want it to be a little bit more bold. It has a strong purpose, and I also want it to be uplifting and have this sort of personal feel to it. I want it to feel like your local garden cafe. So, keeping those things in mind, I put together a few mood boards. For the typeface, I'm really loving this bold, handwritten kind of style. I pulled a few different images that kind of utilize it, and I love how it looks paired with illustrations and how it reads in the posters. I think it's super friendly, also bold, and I think that it really stands out. And I think it'll give it a good personal handwritten vibe. For the color palettes, I pulled kind of a lot. I pulled some earthy colors, tans, greens, oranges. These other photos that I pulled will also help capture the essence that I'm going for and inject a little bit of like the nature and really help pull it all together. When it comes to picking a font, there's not really one way to go about it, unfortunately. Picking a font takes a lot of time. If you're doing it for a client, you will want to consider the cost of the license. So a lot of times, fonts aren't free for commercial use or personal use. You'll have to pay for them. And not only will you have to pay for the font one time, but probably multiple times because it's broken down into usage. So usually you'll have to pay for like a license to put it on collateral, and you also will have to pay for a separate web license to be able to use it on any kind of website or online at all. So a lot of the times people will just stick to free fonts and you don't have to worry about all of that. But since I'm just doing this for fun, I can pick really any font that's free for personal use because I'm not going to be using it for any commercial purpose. Since I already knew what kind of font I wanted when I built my baseline strategy and mood board, it was a lot easier to pull different ideas because I already knew the direction that I wanted to go in. That's why the original strategy is so important, because it just gives you a good foundation. And once you have all of that sorted out, everything else will fall into place more easily because you already know exactly what the tone is, what the voice is, what the brand personality is. Those are kind of your guiding forces for picking your design, your font, everything like that, and it'll just make it a stronger brand. I went ahead and sourced like 10 to 15 different fonts to try, and some of them are a little different, but I kind of just wanted to see how they would look. So here's all my options. I think I'll narrow it down to a select few by cutting out the definite no's first. Goodbye, you've been dumped from the island. Okay, I think I like these the best. This one is called Dakota Rough. I like it in the lowercase style the best for this, but I think I might borrow some of the uppercase letters. It's just pulling me in. I can't explain. It was a love connection. For my body copy, I do want something that's also friendly and approachable, but I also want it to be really simple because I don't want it to overpower this header font because that has so much personality. I kind of just want something that's going to complement it well. So I definitely want to go with a sans serif font. I definitely just want something that doesn't have too strong of a personality itself so that it will complement the Dakota Rough well. So I originally had like 10 of these, and that's not like that much, I guess. I just narrowed it down to these, and I think the bottom one called Museo Sans is gonna be my best bet, just because it's got these rounded edges, kind of like the Dakota Rough, but it's not super overpowering, and I think it just works really well as a pairing. So for the logo, I made all of these sketches before I picked out a font. It's good to do a ton of iterations of your designs just because they will get better as you push your ideas. That was definitely the case here. I always also like to start with pen and paper. I just feel like it's the easiest for me to get my ideas out quickly, and I don't like to be perfect with them. Your original ideas should just be quick, letting the ideas flow without inhibiting yourself too much. I really like this mocha pot / stovetop espresso maker with the roots in the bottom half. I want to maintain the geometry of the Dakota Rough with my illustrations as well. Also the stacked type variation, and then combining the handle of the mocha pot handle with the G to form an abbreviated GR for grass roof. And I just feel like those were my strongest ideas. So I'm going to go ahead and pull them into Illustrator, and I'm going to pull the GR from my header with the Dakota font together and mess around with it until they kind of look like something that I'm going for. Now kiss. I am hollowing out the R to make it look more like a handle, and then I'm gonna pull these letters back into my original Grass Roof Cafe header instead of using the Dakota Rough G and R that came with the font. I'm just gonna use the ones that I used for my logo because I adjusted them a bit and I just want it all to fit together, just for the main logo and header and all of that. And I'm also gonna add in the uppercase F. I also think this E is looking a little thick, so I'm just gonna trim it down. For the illustration, I'm just gonna take different geometric shapes and use different Pathfinder tools to make new shapes with them to form this mocha pot. I think that's the easiest way to go about this specific illustration, is just thinking about like, what existing shapes can I use to make this new shape? I did a few different variations of both logos and ultimately landed on this one with the rounded square handle and the rounded corners a bit too, just to match the font best. So we're gonna stick with this one. Okay, plot twist. So I think I'm gonna add a bunch of illustrations to go with this font that are also geometric but also friendly and that tie into the coffee and plants and all of that. I just really wanted to do a few more. I thought it'd be really cute to complement the design and everything if I could have some hands holding coffee cups or different mugs with plants coming out of them. So instead of this illustration as a logo variation, I think it will just become one of the average middle children in a family of illustrations. So I sketched some new ones out and I'm just gonna pull them into Illustrator again and vectorize them. Similar to my other one, I'm going to start with geometric shapes. Once I sketch all of them, I will go back in and make the lines like a little wobbly almost. Like I just want it to have that hand-drawn feel similar to the Dakota Rough font. So I think I'll probably go back in and adjust the lines so that they're not perfect straight lines. I'm fully self-taught in Illustrator, so I'm not the fastest in it, but I will say, you know, you learn the shortcuts as you go. And my first internship, I was kind of like faking it. I mean, I knew a little bit about Illustrator because I'd used it before, but I didn't really know it that well. I was still learning it, and my main feedback that week was just that I need to be able to work faster. I think that was like a little bit defeating in the moment, but I never felt more motivated to learn it. If you are teaching yourself Illustrator or anything, just have patience because you will get faster, you will learn it all. It has a very steep learning curve, so just be patient with yourself. There's so much information out there on it too. There's so many tutorials on YouTube and stuff, and there's so many resources, so definitely not impossible to teach yourself. So here are my final illustrations. I think I actually might convert this teapot into a watering can as well, just to tie in the garden a little bit more, but I'm content. I'm pleased. Said literally no designer ever. Okay, so you want the truth. It took me to decide on a color palette, and this is what I mean by decide, aka no final decision has been made. So I'm just gonna start designing and let the art take me where it wants to go. Okay, so let's just start with a menu. I kind of like the half-size menu, so I just pulled in some references to use as inspo, and I'm just gonna add a little paper texture just to give it some more of that earthy, personal feeling. I want to try a few different variations just so that I can nail down the design and also the color palette once and for all. Personally, as a Libra, it is hard for me to make decisions, and I know a lot of other people struggle with that as well. So this takes a lot longer than it looks like, and I think it's kind of a holistic process. Like, I don't think there's ever a specific order that you go in. I think it is more just like, maybe you'll have an idea for a logo first, or maybe you'll have the idea for an illustration. It's not really a linear process, and a lot of the times while I'm building out a logo, I'm also thinking of what font I want to use with it. So they are pretty interconnected. I'm just gonna add in a bunch of different fake items that I feel like a cafe should have. I'm not a specialist. I'm gonna add in these dividing lines just to help with legibility so that you can connect the item to the price very easily. I'm gonna pull in my illustrations here. I think they look really cute between the different sections of the menu. I'm just gonna mess around with it until I get a variation that works best. This one is my favorite, I think. I really like the two-tone color palette, and I think this contrast just works so well with my design without looking cheap or chaotic. It just is very simple, and it lets the design stand on its own. My original color palette ideas were like 6 colors each, but I actually think that this works really well. And I actually think that the green would be a little bit too on the nose. That would be such an obvious choice to make because of grass, but I feel like the brown kind of ties into the coffee essence and like the earthiness of this brand. So I actually think this is a really good choice. When you're pitching this idea or when you're presenting it, it is kind of like world building, so it is nice to pair your designs with imagery just to give it more context and help it stand out a little bit more, and I think it just sells the design a little bit better. When I'm turning the final assets I make into slides, I'm also gathering like probably 30 to 40 images on the side that I feel like fit my color palette, fit the tone and the vibe, and also have like a similar contrast and look and feel. I have those kind of like in my back pocket so I can pull them in as needed to work with my designs. I'll edit them in Photoshop too. I'll go in and color grade it so that it kind of matches the colors of my palette, and also if it has any extra colors in it like blue or yellow, like you can pull those back a little bit just so it matches the look and feel of your brand. If you can, customize the photos that you're using. So I'm just gonna add these menus on top of an image just to give them context and frame them well. A lot of the times I'll do the flat version of my asset overlaid on an image, or I'll mock it up into something. Like, there's so many different ways that you can be creative with it, and I would say like if you're not really sure where to start with that, definitely look on Pinterest, and Behance is a really good resource because a lot of people have like fully fleshed out projects on there and like really high quality of work on Behance. That's where I got a lot of my inspiration, so it's a really good resource. I also added my logo to the glass cup as well, and I think it just looks so beautiful laid out like this. On to business cards and a loyalty card. Now that I have my foundational design, everything else is going to fall into place much more easily. I would say like the foundational branding is probably 90% of the work that you put in. You really want to put a lot of your effort towards that. Like I said before, you might still be figuring it out as you start to build out your assets, but you really want to make sure that your baseline branding is super solid before you really dive into bringing it to life in other ways. You just want it all to feel consistent. You also want other designers and maybe like the client even to be able to easily look at this and know how to apply it to something new. I'm just gonna put in some fake information like a fake phone number, website, some hours. I'm just gonna mock up a few of them together into this scattered card mock-up that I found. Super easy. I'll just go into all of the design layers and add mine there. It'll be super simple. And I think because I have a two-tone palette, I don't really want to put them over the dark brown or the cream tan color because I just don't think that they'll pop enough since my cards are in both colors. So I'm gonna put them over a coffee cup image. For the loyalty card, I'm just gonna add in some little stars for the first 9. Then the 10th free one, I'll make an illustration of the coffee cup. Here's the final loyalty cards. So cute. Next, I am going to just make an A-frame sign, just an outdoor sign, just saying like the store's open, when the hours are, things like that. I really want minimal information on this sign because someone walking by looks at it, you just want it to be simple, straight to the point. So I'm just going to do the logo and a little description and the hours, and then maybe like one of my little illustrations. But yeah, we're just going to keep it short and sweet here. Cool. I also think it would be nice to put some of my illustrations onto some paper cups. I'm gonna manually do it to this image that I found. I'm gonna just overlay my brown color onto the cups. Then I'm just gonna warp the illustration using the arc mode and probably make it a little less intense. That curve is a bit much, so I'm just gonna dial it back a little bit, and then let's turn the opacity down a little to make it so the shadows on the edge of the cup, all the lighting comes through. And I also just swapped out the background for some vines on a wall just to help it fit the brand vibe a little bit more. Here is the final mock-up. I built out all my final slides in Illustrator. As you can see here, this is how I laid it all out. I just kind of built them in order of how I'd want it to be presented. I added a few more mock-ups just to bring it to life a little bit more. I also added a description with the concepts, the challenge, the solution, etc., just so that people can get like a more in-depth understanding of the brand and its purpose, and also so that I can connect the dots between the strategy and the design decisions. I also included an animation, a poster mock-up, and a few other graphic and photo assets like my logo on a few different mugs, things like that. And I'm so happy with how it all turned out. I hope this was helpful for you. I'll definitely be making more videos like this in the future, so if you like this kind of content, definitely subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it. It helps me a lot. If you want to check out my art shop, it's in the description. If you want 10% off, you can use YouTube 10 at checkout if you so desire. That's all for today. Thank you so much. Yeah, I will see you soon.